The Zippo factory, the flame that refused to die. There is a factory in a small Pennsylvania town that still makes products the same way it did nearly a century ago. Not smartphones, not computers, not electric vehicles, lighters, millions of metal lighters. For generations, the name Zippo became synonymous with reliability, American manufacturing, and a promise so bold that almost no modern company would dare make it today. It works, or we fix it free. But this isn't just the story of a lighter. It's the story of a family business that survived the Great Depression, supplied soldiers during World War II, became a symbol of American culture, and then faced a terrifying question. What happens when the world no longer needs what you make? This is the story of the Zippo factory and the family behind the flame. The story begins in the early 1930s. America was trapped in the depths of the Great Depression. Businesses were failing, banks were collapsing, jobs were disappearing. In Bradford, Pennsylvania, a young businessman named George G. Blaisdell was searching for opportunities wherever he could find them. Then one day he noticed something curious. A friend was struggling to light a cigarette. The lighter he carried worked, but barely. It was bulky, awkward, ugly. Most frustratingly, it required 2 hands to operate. The lighter itself wasn't American. It was an Austrian design. Blaisdell watched his friend wrestle with the device and asked an obvious question. If it works so well, why don't you get a better one? The answer was simple, because despite its flaws, it was dependable. And that single observation changed Zippo history forever. George Blaisdell didn't invent the lighter. He improved it. He redesigned the Austrian model with a rectangular case that fit comfortably in the hand. He added a hinged lid. Most importantly, he created a chimney design that protected the flame from wind. The result was a lighter that could often stay lit when competitors failed. In 1932, Zippo was born. The name itself came from another invention. Blaisdell liked the sound of the word zipper, a relatively new product at the time. He played with the word until it became Zippo. It sounded modern, fast, memorable, exactly what he wanted. The first Zippo lighters sold for just under $2. At the height of the Great Depression, that wasn't a trivial amount of money. Yet customers bought them because they worked. And when something works during hard times, people notice. The early years were anything but easy. Zippo was still a tiny operation. Every lighter required labor. Every sale mattered. George Blaisdell understood something that many manufacturers missed. People weren't just buying a product, they were buying trust. So he introduced what would become one of the most famous guarantees in business history. It works or we fix it free. No expiration date, no complicated paperwork, no loopholes, no conditions. If a Zippo stopped working, the company would repair it, period. That promise became the foundation of the brand. It also created a problem. Most companies make money when customers replace products. Zippo encouraged customers to keep theirs forever. The guarantee wasn't a marketing gimmick, it was a philosophy. And over the decades, millions of broken, dented, crushed, burned, and battered Zippos would find their way back to Bradford. Many still do today. Workers repair lighters that are decades old. Some are older than the employees fixing them. Few companies can make that claim. Fewer still would want to. But for Zippo, durability wasn't a feature. It was the entire identity of the company. As demand grew, Bradford became the heart of the operation. Located in northwestern Pennsylvania, Bradford had once been a booming oil town. By the time Zippo arrived, much of that prosperity had faded. But the factory provided something desperately needed: jobs. Generations of local families worked inside the plant. Parents, children, and grandchildren often found themselves employed under the same roof. The manufacturing process became a source of pride. Sheets of brass arrived at the factory. Machines stamped components into shape. Cases were formed, hinges attached, inserts assembled. Every lighter passed through multiple stages before reaching customers. Unlike many modern products assembled across dozens of countries, Zippo remained rooted in Bradford. The company embraced American manufacturing long before it became a marketing slogan. Visitors who toured the factory saw sparks fly from machinery. They watched polished brass emerge from production lines. They saw workers inspecting products by hand. It felt old-fashioned, and that was exactly the point. Zippo wasn't chasing trends. It was preserving a tradition. Then came World War II. Everything changed. America's factories shifted toward military production. Zippo was no exception. After the United States entered the war, the company stopped producing lighters for civilian customers. Every lighter was dedicated to the military effort. Materials became scarce. Brass was needed elsewhere. So Zippo adapted. The company began producing steel-cased lighters, coated with a distinctive black finish, known today as Black Crackle. Those wartime lighters would become legendary. American servicemen carried them across Europe, across North Africa, across the Pacific. Photographs from the era show Zippos tucked into uniforms and pockets. For many soldiers, the lighter became far more than a smoking accessory. It was a source of comfort, a reminder of home, a dependable tool in an unpredictable world. Many engraved personal messages onto their Zippos, names, dates, unit insignias. Some carried lucky charms. Others carried final reminders of loved ones waiting back home. The lighter became part of wartime culture, a small piece of America that fit in a pocket. When soldiers returned home, many brought their Zippos with them. And the legend grew. Because now Zippo wasn't just a product, it was part of the greatest generation's story. The decades after World War II were Zippo's golden years. America was booming, manufacturing was thriving, consumer culture exploded, and Zippo found itself perfectly positioned. The company expanded advertising. Collectors emerged. Custom engravings became popular. Businesses ordered branded Zippos. Sports teams ordered them. Military units ordered them. Everyone seemed to want one. Then Hollywood arrived. Zippos appeared in films, television shows, music videos. They became symbols of toughness, independence, and cool. Actors flicked them open with one hand. The distinctive click became instantly recognizable. That sound alone became part of American culture. Many enthusiasts claim they can identify a Zippo by sound before ever seeing it. It's difficult to think of another lighter that achieved such recognition. By the 1960s and 1970s, Zippo had become more than a manufacturer. It was an icon. But hidden beneath the success was a problem that few people noticed. A threat was coming. And unlike every challenge before it, this one couldn't be solved by building a better lighter. By the 1950s, Zippo had become one of America's most recognizable products. Veterans carried them home from the war. Factory workers slipped them into their pockets before heading to work. Hollywood stars used them on screen. The distinctive click of a Zippo opening had become almost as famous as the lighter itself. For a while, the future looked secure. Then came a challenge that George Blaisdell could never have predicted. Disposable lighters. Companies such as Bic introduced cheap plastic alternatives that could be bought almost anywhere. They required no maintenance, no replacement flints, and no fuel refills. When they stopped working, they were simply thrown away. The concept was the exact opposite of everything Zippo stood for. Zippo had built its reputation on durability. Customers often owned the same lighter for years, sometimes decades. Disposable lighters were designed to be used briefly and replaced. As consumers increasingly chose convenience over longevity, Zippo found itself fighting a battle it had never expected. its greatest strength was suddenly becoming a weakness. At the same time, another threat was emerging. For much of the 20th century, smoking had been woven into everyday American life. Cigarettes appeared in movies, advertisements, and television shows. Smoking was common in restaurants, offices, and even hospitals. But by the 1960s and 1970s, attitudes were changing. Medical research increasingly linked smoking to serious illness. Public awareness campaigns grew stronger. Governments introduced warning labels and advertising restrictions. As smoking rates began to decline, so did demand for traditional lighters. For many companies, facing one major challenge would have been difficult enough. Zippo was facing two: a shrinking market and a growing preference for disposable products. Many observers believed the company's best years were behind it. Yet, Zippo survived. One reason was the Blaisdell family. After George Blaisdell's death in 1978, the company remained under family ownership. Unlike many historic American manufacturers that were sold to giant corporations, Zippo continued operating from Bradford, Pennsylvania. The family understood that customers were no longer buying Zippos simply to light cigarettes. They were buying a symbol of reliability, craftsmanship, and American manufacturing. Instead of abandoning its identity, Zippo embraced it. The company expanded its line of collectible lighters. Military commemoratives, anniversary editions, historical designs, and limited releases attracted a new generation of enthusiasts. Collectors around the world began treating Zippos as pieces of history rather than everyday tools. Some rare examples became highly sought-after collectibles, particularly wartime Black Crackle models and early production pieces. The lighter was evolving, and that evolution helped save the company. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about Zippo is where it still makes its products. Bradford, Pennsylvania. While countless American manufacturers moved production overseas in search of lower costs, Zippo stayed where it began. Generation after generation of local families worked inside the factory. The machinery changed, production methods improved, but the heart of the operation remained the same. Brass sheets still arrive at the plant. Components are still assembled. Finished lighters are still inspected before leaving the factory. And every lighter is still backed by the same promise that George Blaisdell introduced nearly a century ago. It works, or we fix it free. That guarantee remains one of the most famous in American business history. By the late 20th century, Zippo had become something few products ever achieve: a cultural symbol. The lighter appeared in hundreds of movies and television shows, often used to signal toughness, independence, or rebellion. Musicians carried them. Motorcyclists collected them. Military veterans treasured them. For many owners, a Zippo became deeply personal. Unlike disposable lighters, a Zippo aged alongside its owner. Scratches, dents, and worn corners told a story. Every mark represented years of use and memories attached to the object. The company even received thousands of letters from customers describing the extraordinary journeys of their lighters. Some survived house fires. Others were carried through military deployments. Many became treasured family possessions, handed down from one generation to the next. By this point, Zippo was no longer competing solely in the lighter market. It was competing in the much rarer business of heritage, nostalgia, and trust, and those qualities proved far harder for competitors to copy than any piece of hardware ever could. Today, Zippo occupies a unique place in American culture. Many of the disposable lighters that once threatened its survival have long been discarded and forgotten. Meanwhile, countless Zippos remain in circulation. Some are carried every day, some sit in collections. Others have been passed from parents to children and grandchildren. That may be the true secret behind the company's survival. Zippo never tried to become disposable. It never abandoned the values that made it successful in the first place. Nearly a century after George Blaisdell watched a friend struggle with an awkward Austrian lighter, the company he created still produces millions of lighters in the same Pennsylvania town where the story began. In a world increasingly built around products designed to be replaced, Zippo continues to represent something different, something built to last. George Blaisdell set out to improve a lighter. What he created was a brand that survived the Great Depression, World War II, the rise of disposable products, and the decline of smoking itself. The Bradford factory still stands. The Blaisdell family's legacy still endures. And every time a Zippo lid snaps shut, it serves as a reminder of a simple idea helped build an American icon. Make it well, stand behind it, and never stop earning your customers' trust. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed our video, don't forget to subscribe and comment below what you would like us to cover next. Until next time.